Well, hello everyone. I want to welcome you to the call today. My name is Doug Mainers. I'm Director of Member Relations and Training with Connected Investors. On behalf of Ross Hamilton, our CEO, I want to welcome you to the call today. This is the Residential Wholesale Mastery Training. We're glad you're with us today. Thanks for joining us. This is where we go over different topics related to wholesaling, and it doesn't just apply to wholesaling. If you're a fix and flip investor or a buy and hold investor, the topics that we discuss will help you as well, where you don't necessarily have to reach out to a wholesaler. You might be able to access these things directly the way that we teach it. So I'm glad to have you on the call today. We're glad that you're with us. Thanks for joining us. And let's jump right into our training and get started. Basically today, what we're going to be talking about is how do I contract an auction property. A lot of times investors say, well, hey, I don't know, how do I wholesale an auction property? Is that even possible? Well, the good news is the answer is yes, it is possible. And I'm going to show you some techniques and some tricks and things that you can do on these auction properties to allow you to potentially be able to wholesale them. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to specifically get into auction.com because that's one of the regular auction sites that you'll see on the Deal Dog app. And many times the wholesalers just ignore those. They get Deal Dog and say, well, these are all auction properties. I can't wholesale these. Well, the good news is, yes, you can wholesale these, and we're going to show you some tips and tricks on how to do that, how to go through the process, how to bid, what to do. So we're going to get into the pre-auction phase, what you should be doing, the actual bidding, and then the post-auction. What should you be doing as a wholesaler? So we're going to break all that down for you today. It's kind of an exciting call because it's not a training I have done before, and I think you're going to really like the aspect of how you can go ahead and contract these auction properties. So jump on board. Get started and let's roll on. So we're going to get into first of all and talk about this auction.com properties. When you're thinking about these auction.com properties, a lot of times you'll see those when you go over to the Deal Dog app. So let's just jump over real quick to the platform and let's take a look real quick at what I'm talking about. For those who may not know, you have apps on the Connected Investor platform down here in the lower right corner. But up here in this little green square, you can click on that and open up your apps much larger. So I'm going to do that. And then the app we're really focusing on today is an app called Deal Dog, which is right here. And this particular app is going to allow you to be able to go ahead and find deals. It actually saves you time because it's going to go out and search a bunch of different websites for you, bring all the deals to one place, to allow you to search every day. So instead of you having to go to 10 different websites every day, it's going to bring them to you. Because invariably what happens is we have investors that say, well, hey, I can go to find those sites. Well, you could potentially find them all, maybe not all of them. But are you going to be dedicated to be able to go to 10 sites every single day? The answer is probably no. Because what you're going to find is that when you get to site number 5 or 6, you'll get a phone call, you get distracted, something's going to happen, you have to run out. And you never made it to site 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that day. And guess what? The deal that day was on site 9. You never made it there because you didn't have Deal Dog. See, that's where Deal Dog comes in. It saves you time and it keeps you from missing deals. So let's go ahead and click on that Deal Dog app and let's go ahead and pull up and talk about these auction properties that you see on here occasionally. Now, if you want to go ahead, this is the heat map of the whole United States, what you're seeing right here. This is going to show properties all over the U.S. and you can click on those heat maps and actually zoom right into those properties. But what we want to do is focus I'm just going to focus on my dashboard. So if you click right here on dashboard, it's only going to show you the properties down below that are the properties associated with the areas that you follow. So when I click on dashboard, I'm following a couple of areas in North Carolina. As I scroll down, you can see those properties right here, okay? So you notice right here, there's quite a few properties here that have the auction.com. A lot of them are A-graded because they're picking up the initial bid on that property. And so that means that they're obviously a good deal. But these auction.com properties can be potentially done with a wholesaler. So that's the good news here. The wholesaler can use his auction.com, and I'm going to show you how in just a minute. So as I'll just click on the first one here. It takes us over to the auction.com platform. And here's the property that they are referring to. Now, if you notice here, it's got the current bid. It's got the, it says the reserve is not met, previously valued to, you get that, and then it's got all the property details. That's going to be important. We're going to talk about this information here in just a minute. But guys, this is your property here on auction.com. So you say, okay, I'm a wholesaler. What do I do with this property? So what I want to do now that you've kind of seen one of these properties, let's go back over to the PowerPoint and let me walk you through exactly the process that you're going to want to go through, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click. The first thing you want to look at, guys, is your pre-auction due diligence. What is my pre-auction due diligence? Well, first of all, we want to review the property details page. That was the page I just showed you. There's a property details page. And what you're going to find is sometimes it'll say there are other documents. And in those other documents, many times is a copy of the contract that that bank uses when they put a property, you put a property under contract. And that's going to come into play here in a minute. I'm going to talk more about that. But that's a good thing to take a look at. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But you want to review that property details page. Take a look at it. Look at all the information provided. That's going to give you all the details that they have on the property. Notice that property we had up a moment ago had title information there. So it's going to help you out. So you definitely want to take a look at that property details page. Another thing, and you want to look at what other documents are there. Now, the second thing you want to do, is not necessarily in this order, but probably, is you want to drive by the property if you're in a close proximity. Now, keep in mind, auction.com asks you, please do not disturb the residents, if any. If there's residents there, you don't want to disturb them. So you can drive by there, take a look at the outside of the property. Now, if the property is vacant, you might even be able to get inside of it. But in this situation, make sure you don't disturb the residents. Don't knock on the door. Don't say, hey, I'm here to look at the property. We don't want to do that. They ask, please don't do that. But you can certainly look at the outside. Next, what you want to think about is you want to determine the after repair value. How can you do that? Well, you have several ways to do that. You have the Analyze feature on DealDog that allows you to go in and look at sites like Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, that you can log and go in there and take a look at that particular property. I like Trulia because you can actually basically go on that site, not just look at their estimated value, but you can go in and look at actually sold comparables in the area. Real properties that are sold close to that property, that's going to give you a real idea of value. Same thing with Realtor.com. I like the fact they offer a lot of those sold properties as well. Of course, you also have the property valuation app, right? The valuation app where you can get a live person to go out and do a BPO for a small fee. That's something you might want to consider. But if you don't want to pay for that BPO, we have training in the Success Library that teaches you how to get those comps for free from an agent you have on your team. So as a wholesaler, it's a good idea to have an agent on your team that you can turn around. And the way you do that is you basically tell them, hey, if you help me out, provide me comps for these properties and do a broker price opinion on these properties, when my buyer comes along to buy it from me, I'm going to refer them to you to list the property once they fix and flip it. So they're going to fix it up, and then they're going to send it. I'm going to refer them to you to list it. So you're basically a referral service for them, and in return, they're providing you with comps. This is a great tool. This is what I do. I use this same technique. And so you can get the after repair value by working with an agent. Now, that's going to be another thing you want to do before you start bidding. In addition, you want to go ahead and get a proof of funds letter ready. You have to have one within 24 hours of an accepted bid. And notice you don't have to have one prior to the bidding. And so you may not even need this. You're going to understand why in just a minute. But if you were thinking about maybe buying the property and closing it and then wholesaling it or reselling it, you would, within 24 hours of an accepted bid, really we can stretch that to 48. I'm going to show you in just a minute. You can actually go ahead. You're going to need that proof of funds letter. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you don't already have one, you want to start getting that together. Although you don't really need it up front. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Excuse me. And then lastly, you can go ahead, if it's a vacant home, many times you can have an inspection. You can get somebody in there. You know, you have the Repair Estimates app that allows you to go ahead and have a live person go out to the property. This app has no charge to it. They're going to give you a free estimate in hopes that you use them to rehab the property. So what I like to do is I like to click on the Repair Estimates app, and I pick general contractors. There's a lot of choices on the Repair Estimates app. I always like to choose general contractors and then I'll choose, you know, a rehab. You got several choices once you click that on the other drop down. You can choose, you know, small group of projects, one large project. It'll tell you what. You can choose whichever one you want, but choose general contractors when you pick the repair estimate app. That works best. And then you can have them go out, and you can arrange to have them go inside before you even place a bid, and you know what the rehab costs are, and you're ready to pass it along to your end buyer as well. So this property due diligence phase is important. You want to make sure that you follow through on that. And then last but not least, they do require a $2,500 earnest money deposit. It's a hold. They're not actually going to charge you the $2,500. They're not going to keep that money at this point. What they do is they put a hold on it. So you can use your debit card or credit card, but keep in mind, they're going to put a hold on that fund, and then it's refunded to you on the following Saturday after the bid period is over. If you win the bid, or if you don't win the bid, the Saturday after the bid period is over, they take the hold off that money. They don't actually take the money. They just use it to put a hold on that money, okay? So this is a great way. If you don't have $2,500, see who you can borrow the money from for temporary. Say, hey, I need $2,500. I'm not going to spend it. It's simply going to be put on hold. You can do it right on your own card, and they'll release the hold the following Saturday after I make my bids. I'm sure you know somebody who would do that for you that's going to allow you the ability to have that $2,500 hold. Again, they don't charge the card. They just put it on hold. And then the Saturday following the bid period, if you don't win the bid, they release the funds. If you do win the bid, they also release the funds, because you're going to have to come back and pay an earnest money deposit later, or your buyer's going to pay it. You'll see this in a minute. Your buyer actually will be the one to pay it, but you will need $2,500 just so they can put a hold on that. And you can use somebody else's credit card. That's fine. Just arrange, let them know, show them. You can actually show them right on auction.com where they say they'll release those funds. So really it's just being held. They're not actually taking the funds out of the account. So hopefully that helps. So guys, that's your pre-auction due diligence. That's what you want to be doing leading up to the auction. And again, it's not that much to this. Pretty much you're already doing this already. The last, you've got apps that help you with connecting investors to get this done. But definitely want to take a look at what other documents are there. If there's a copy of the contract, that could be beneficial. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Okay, let's move on. The next step is bidding. Now, with the bidding means the properties come available. You're going to start the bidding process. And you do this all online. The first thing you got to do is you've got to register your account to get started, and then you can start bidding. Now, keep in mind, some auction properties are sold subject to seller authorization, which means that you could win the bid and still not get the property because the seller still may have to authorize. The bank, whoever has that property, may have to authorize the sale of the property. So keep that in mind. Even though you win the bid, you don't always get the property because the seller may come out and decide that they're not going to authorize that sale. Okay, so keep that in mind. Number two, some properties may also have a buyer's premium, which is normally 5%, which the buyer must pay on top of the bid. So if you win a bid of $100,000 on a property, you win the bid, you're going to have to pay $105,000 for that property. In other words, there's going to be a 5%, in this case, $5,000 premium added on top of that property. So you must pay that. It'll let you know whether there's a buyer premium or not. It'll tell you right on the bid form, right as you log in and see that. It'll let you know. You just be prepared for that. Also pass it along to your potential buyer, your investor buyer who may buy the property, okay? Also, you want to think the bid period may be extended. If bids are placed near the conclusion of the bid period, then that bid period may be extended. So keep that in mind. If a lot of people start bidding right at the end, that bid period may keep going for days. It can be a week or more, right? If people just keep bidding. So keep that in mind. The bid period may be extended if the bids are placed near the conclusion of the bid period. And a lot of times that's the way it happens. Right at the end of the time, people start hammering away at the bid. And one thing you want to keep in mind, a good word of advice, don't get emotionally involved with bidding on these auction properties. Guys, these are auction properties. Sometimes you can get excited. I'm going to win this, and all that, but never bid. You want to have a set maximum bid. You want to have a set maximum bid before you even get started. That way, when it reaches that maximum, you're done. You want to stop right there. Do not bid again, because many times investors, they get emotionally involved in it. Now, you as a wholesaler, it's even more important that you don't get emotionally involved. Because as a wholesaler, you know that end buyer is not going to pay but so much for that property. So you want to be very careful as a wholesaler as well to make sure that you don't overbid that. But the bid period will get extended as more people bid. Keep that in mind. Also, you get email notification. If your bid is exceeded, you get an email notification letting you know. Now, you can set up with auction.com to bid for you up to a certain dollar amount. So you can actually preset it up. So if somebody bids, it'll bid for you automatically in a certain increment up to a certain dollar amount. You can set that up ahead of time, so you don't even have to monitor it necessarily. It will do the work for you until the end of the bid period, and then you may want to jump in there. But you will get an email notification if your bid is exceeded, and then you can jump back in and make another bid. Okay, so this is all on bidding that. Now, properties typically have a reserve, okay, which means if that reserve, if it is not met, you may not be able to buy the property even if you win the bid. So sometimes you can bid, you win the bid, you get the highest bid, but the property didn't meet the reserve, so you're not going to get the property. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes the seller will reach back out to you and let you know that, hey, I understand the reserve wasn't met. I will go ahead and sell the property. So sometimes these banks, they may want to go ahead and just get rid of it, and they may reach out to you and say, hey, I'll sell you the property at this bid. You can go ahead and take it, kind of thing. So sometimes that happens, but don't get your hopes up, right? If you get to the end of the bid period, you win the bid, and it hasn't met the reserve, they're going to let you know, sorry, you've won the bid, but the reserve has not been met. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, what do you do post-auction? And guys, this is what gets really important with a wholesaler. This is kind of key right here, is what happens post-auction, all right? So post-auction, what you're going to want to do is, with auction.com, is first, as I mentioned earlier, they have to have a proof of funds submitted within 24 hours of winning the bid. Now, what you can do is you have the Fast Funding app, and you also have the CIX.com portal. It goes to the same place, CIX.com, or you can click the Fast Funding app. And what that does is you can actually submit a property, even if you don't have it under contract. You could submit a property through there, have some of the lenders, we have many lenders, vetted, verified lenders, they'll reach out to you and contact you, and once they contact you, you can talk with them and find out what their terms are, and let them know what you're looking to do, tell them what your terms are. And what'll happen is they'll give you a proof of funds letter. Once you've made contact with them, you've discussed with them the terms, you're telling them what they're after, they've kind of identified who you are. That could be done way in advance. That could be done before you ever place a bid, before you ever do that. You could take one of the properties that are before it opens, the bid period opens, you submit it through CIX, tell them this is the property you're looking to acquire, see what kind of funding they do, and say, hey, would you mind providing with the proof of funds letter? And they will submit that to you once they talk with you. So they got to make sure that they feel good about you qualifying and the information, but they will provide that for you, or you might get a proof of funds letter from someone else. But honestly, what we're going to teach with wholesaling is you might not even need your own proof of funds letter. You'll see that in just a minute, okay? So proof of funds letter. It says 24 hours, and literally you can go to 48 hours. You can stretch this just a little to 48 hours if you, with the auction.com folks, okay? Now, moving forward, 48 hours, you have to submit the entity docs from the buyer. So what does that mean to you? Let's talk about what that means, okay? So give me a second. Let me go through this with you. What that means, this is important as a wholesaler, you can bid in your own name or your own company name, however you want to do it. You can bid in your company name or your personal name. You can place your bid, right? Now, the beauty of what auction.com allows you to do is they don't care if it's you that made the bid. They don't care. They just want somebody to buy the property. So what happens is you've got 48 hours from the time that your bid is accepted to turn around and get your buyer on board to buy the property. We say, well, gosh, that ain't much time. Well, that's why you want to get your buyer on board ahead of time, in advance. You want to make sure if you have a buyer in place, that you already know what they're looking for, the property meets their criteria. As soon as you win the bid, you provide them with the property address. Say, hey, I've got this property under contract. If you want it, hey, I need a proof of funds letter, and I need you to get your earnest money ready. And that way you can move forward. You can get them in to look at the property during this time period. You can go ahead and get them all lined up to buy the property, and then arrange for them to pay you a fee, a finder's fee, for finding the property. You can get them to sign an invoice that they're going to pay you for like a independent contractor services or research fee, research services, however you want to structure it. You're not going to be assigning them the contract, because the contract's going to go in their name, their entity. They're going to provide their docs to auction.com to buy the property. You're just going to get paid for negotiating the deal, bidding on the property, getting it all set up. Then they're going to come in and actually buy the property and provide the proof of funds and the earnest money. That's how you as a wholesaler can still do auction.com properties. If you have buyers already lined up, you can go ahead and arrange, right, with these buyers to go ahead and have that property ready for them, ready to go. And within a 48-hour period, as long as they provide their docs and proof of funds, you're set, and you arrange to get paid by them. You're in great shape. So here's how you as a wholesaler can get this done. So as soon as you have bid the property, you accepted your bid, then you can turn around, reach out to your buyer, let them know the property address, show them the comp, show them the repair, show them everything. Say, hey, you're ready to, you get them inside if it's vacant, and then say, hey, okay, we got to get it off. We got to get your docs turned in. We got to get it in auction.com and get this submitted for you. If you don't want to do it, I got somebody else who will, right? And so that's what kind of cool. Now, let's move forward. In 48 hours, you got to submit the earnest money. Remember, they're holding the $2,500. Well, the Saturday after you win your bid, they give that back to you. But then within 48 hours, they want the earnest money, either 5% or $2,500 put down on this property. So what that means is then you can go ahead. This is something that the buyer is going to pay. The buyer is going to pay this. And so you can arrange to have the buyer make this payment within 48 hours. They've seen the property. Yeah, I want to move forward. And then they can put the 5% down, or the $2,500 minimum, right? You don't have to come out of pocket yourself. Now, if you want to buy the property, close it, and then resell it, you can do that. As a wholesaler, there's nothing wrong with you buying it, closing it, and then marketing up and putting it back out on the market. If you've got the means to do that, you can use our CIX.com lending portal. There's more risk involved because you're actually buying the property. So you got more costs, you got points, you got interest, you got closing costs. But if it's a good enough deal, you can close it, pay all those extra costs on top of it, and then mark it up and still make a profit. It may be worth doing. So you can still actually close it. You don't have to, in that 48-hour period, go to the new buyer. You can provide those docs. You can provide the earnest money deposit. That's up to you if you want to actually close it and then resell it, which may not be a bad idea sometimes. Then you can mark it up wherever you want. So that's our wholesaling option. So what you want to do is you can assign your rights for a fee to read the buyer. In other words, that buyer, you can go ahead and you're not assigning the contract. You're just assigning your rights to buy this property at the bid price that you have it. The buyer pays you, but you got to make all this happen within 48 hours. Okay, so that's one option that you can do. So, but you've got to have a buyer ready to go. You got to have a buyer on hand, ready to move forward. But this is an option for you to be able to go ahead and wholesale this property. Is you can actually go ahead and get a fee paid by that buyer for the work that you've already done, a research fee, whatever you want to call it. So that's step one. Another option that you have as a wholesaler, this is something that Ross Hamilton, our CEO, has talked about, which I would think is really cool, okay, is you're able to go ahead and you can take that property, let's say you put the property under contract in an LLC name, okay? So you have your own LLC. You must set this LLC up ahead of time. You must set it up ahead of time. But let's say you have an LLC set up. You put the property under contract in the LLC name, and you could even submit the docs. You could even submit the earnest money for that LLC to close on the property. But then you say you come across a buyer later, maybe a week later before you actually close, you're marketing the contract, you're seeing who's out there that might want to buy it. Then you could actually sell your LLC to another person, and then they close the property. So instead of assigning them the contract, you're selling them your entire company, which has that property under contract, and then they've got the company name now, and they can close with that company name. So it's kind of an end around where you can actually sell your company. Now, you must set up your LLC in advance and have it ready to go. Now, understand, in some states, this is not going to be something you want to do because it's very expensive to start an LLC. However, in the state of North Carolina, it's only $125 to start an LLC. So you can set up multiple LLCs, have them ready, place your bid with the LLC name, and then basically sell that LLC to your end buyer. And then they take the property, close it, and they pay you whatever you want to sell your company. $3,000, $5,000. It's kind of like an assignment fee, but you're not getting an assignment fee. You're actually getting paid for the sale of the LLC, which includes the control of that property. So they're buying your LLC for a price. You're selling your LLC to them. They own the LLC now. They close the property in the LLC name, and you move forward. So that's kind of a cool way to do it. It's kind of an end-around game, but that's another option that you have. So you can assign your rights to the buyer for a fee within 48 hours. You got to move quick. You got to have the buyer ready to go. Or you can, basically bid with your LLC name, contract with the property with your LLC name, and then sell your LLC to an end buyer. Okay, so that's another option. Or one more option is you can just close the property and resell it. In other words, you buy the property, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to involve some more fees, it's going to involve some interest, but still there may be enough room there that you can close it, pay the closing costs, pay the interest fee, put it out there for sale. If you got a buyer picks it up in a few weeks, and then you can resell it again. Just build in the cost of, for instance, let's say you buy the property for $100,000, but then you've got another $4,000 in interest, because they're going to charge you a lot of interest the first month. You usually got to pay some points. Then you might have another, $1,000, $1,500 in closing costs. So let's say you have $105,000 in it. By the time you buy the property, you pay the interest fees for the loan that you had to get to buy the property, and you had to pay the attorney or title company closing costs. You may have $105,000 in it, so you sell it for $110 or $115 or whatever it is. There's enough room in there, but you got to know what you're doing. You got to know the ARV, and you got to make sure you understand, that. Make sure that you got an end buyer for it, if that makes sense. So you can buy it and resell it. So those are 3 wholesaling options. You can wholesale auction properties. 3 ways to do it. Again, let me go through them one more time. You can put the property under contract in your name or a company name. It doesn't matter, either one. Then once you have it under contract, you don't have to submit the earnest money or the entity docs, the company docs, to the bank for 48 hours. So you got 48-hour window that you can go ahead and get your buyer lined up and have them submit the entity docs, and they close the property. You pay a fee. They pay you a fee that you can do it on an invoice. However you want to structure the fee, you can do that. A research fee, and independent contractor fee, whatever you want to call it, and you get paid. So that's one option. The second option is you put the property under contract with an LLC that you pre-set up. You put the property under contract in their LLC name. You may have to pay the $2,500 or 5%. You may have to pay, that may have to go ahead and go out. But then you sell the property for your profit plus, obviously whatever you put down. The end buyer, you sell your company to the end buyer, and then they take your property, your company, which was now their company, and they close on it, if that makes sense. And then thirdly, you basically just close the property in your own company name, buy it, and then resell it for a profit. So there's 3 ways that you can do that. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, guys. All right, if you've got more questions about how auction.com works, you can go to they have a learning center. A lot of what I told you today, it came from their learning center. And then I gave them a call. I actually called and talked with them. And so you can go to auction.com/LP/learn-more. Okay, again, auction.com, they're just on the screen. And you can just go to their learning center and you can learn how to structure these deals and what to do. Now, I've also included my email in here, dmainers@connectedinvestors.com. So if you've got any questions, you can email me. If you're not sure about something, I'll be happy to answer it. You can also post it in the Ask a Pro group. Remember, if you're a pro member, you can click on community and then groups and then Ask a Pro group, and you can post it right there, your question. And somebody from my executive team, myself, or someone will answer that. So you can post it there. You can email me. But if you want to learn about the auction process and some of the stuff I talked about, auction.com/LP/learn-more. Also, feel free, guys, I will have this as a replay. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to get you a copy of this as well. Well, thanks again for joining me. This has been a Wholesale Mastery Training. I hope you've learned you can wholesale auction properties. That's exciting. Now you've got another source for wholesale deals. You just got to go ahead and be smart about it. Get your buyers lined up. If you need additional training, email me. I've got training on topics like how to build a buyer's list using connected investors. So I've got all kinds of training to help you. Just shoot me an email. You've got the Really Flip Training Center. If you have Really Flip, you got the Success Library app. Guys, you got a lot of help here. So if I can help in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know. Again, thanks for joining me in the call today. This is Doug Maynard, Director of Member Relations and Training. On behalf of Ross Hamilton, thank you for joining me today on the Wholesale Mastery Training. Go out and get you an auction property and let me know how it goes. Have a good one.